You no longer need a financial advisor, you need a system architect. Welcome to A Conversation with God. I'm your host, God Casalo. Today's conversation will be about BELL, or BELL, the business expense lifestyle living, a concept that, when properly applied, allows you to legally structure your financial world so that nearly everything you do can be offset, deducted, and recouped through the tax system. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. How many of you wish you had access to the same financial deduction systems that the wealthy aristocrats like Donald Trump and major corporations use to reduce their tax burdens to a tax compliance issue and offset their lifestyle expenses by living as a business? If you want that same governmental access to major corporations, then type GODKISALU in the comment bar, and let's make this algorithm respect our presence. For today's conversation, I'm going to break down how an entity, known as an e-state, or an entity structured like a state-recognized business, can operate entirely through tax credit recoupments and debt offsets. When filed correctly, expenses are no longer liabilities, but expense investments that continue to cycle back in the form of the company through tax credit deductions and reimbursements. Entity classification is the key to turning everyday purchases into acquisitions. For you to possess assets like vehicles, homes, and even jewelry, making them deductible business assets. This information is powerful, but only if it is applied. So take notes, engage, and let's get started. You're the asset, and they're profiting off your ignorance. Your exemplification from record is a bond. Your ignorance is displayed when buying birth certificate methods, which is the revenue exerted. There is no bond at the Vital Records Department. The bonds are being held at the Securities Exchange Commission. That is where your exemplification from record is held for full faith, credit, and value to the estate, which is 15 acres or more, so that the government cannot trespass against your rights, your family, as 15 acres is more is enough to live, sustain, and survive off in case of economic downfall or depression occurs. The moment you were born, a crucial number was submitted against your exemplification from record certificate and monetized for a product, some goods or a service from another nation as U.S. Treasury instruments. Your registration into the Social Security program aligns you as the surety. The beneficiary is the system. Yes, you have a corporate letter straw man listed as a corporation backed by a CUSIP, identified as a surety on the stock market for trade as a value, tripled if the person is arrested, which is why the arrests range high on the quota scale amongst law enforcement against you, even in municipal charges like loitering. You never visit the Vital Records Department for a bond. You go there, request an exemplification from record, and from there you will be directed to the SEC, who will interview you for a few hours based on the guise of terrorism and protection. But they're going to give you an issuance for 3 court dates at your local voter attributed courthouse. Now, my first court date, the hearing, it was about HJR 192 of 1933, and how it isn't in a lawful currency and everything can be offset and not discharged. For 8 hours in that day in that courtroom, I learned word assimilation, language linguistics, code switches, thesaurus versus dictionary actions, black law implementation, and the terms from a book called Clerk's Praxis. That's CLERKS, Praxis, PRAXIX. Like how people sell and don't fully disclose the meaning between the words offset and discharge. Offset was the real term used lawfully, as it meant all creditors were credited and paid for their services of good, merchandise, or assets being issued to you, and you recoup the expenses made via filing expenses on over 2,100 tax forms from the IRS. The word discharge was only mentioned when the asset had traveled through the trust decanting process and was free and clear, and it was now to be ready to discharge from the public into the estate for the next 99 years for my family to reuse. This is where you declare your automobiles with the DOT as non-recreational, in-farm use, non-commercial. And they will issue you a not-for-hire DOT number for your automobiles, up to 6 automobiles, versus you having to register your vehicles with the DMV and have to have insurance, license to operate, and be clear in the warrants while in commerce and public versus traveling. That was the first court date. The second hearing was about firing the prosecutor who acted as my fiduciary trustee in all commercial and non-commercial charges, counts, and claims against me. See, I learned then for 8 hours how to file a notice of appearance on behalf of the estate, how to request the Miller Act bonds, and how to lawfully submit them to the county court recorder's window. They teach you how to properly submit the notice of fiduciary relationship form. So the whole hearing is based on execution and lawful overstanding of a system, not a method, a course, or a process, or my way or nothing. The system is already created, so they have forms already created for your input. You don't have to recreate forms or methods in Microsoft or Adobe to win at this game. This game takes influence. This game takes manipulation. But most importantly, I mastered that this game took confidence, which is why you having the audacity to pull this off is what you need to believe. And my third final hearing was about taxes, offsetting expenses, and recouping my lifestyle versus on a living. What? For living a lifestyle. This is where I learned about escrow, down payment requirements, compliance, and the importance of not commingling in the private commercial actions with my public persona problems. See, the problem was that people sell you the promise of discharging your personal bills, your personal car, and mortgage that are qualified by your name through a commercial offsetting process with sale points that is attributed or attached to the capital letter name, which is a bond, that you further validate with a little research on the topics at your own leisure. And from that validation, you believe it. And the truth is it does not work like that. It is not a setup like that, and the system reacts to that as a glitch. And Uncle Sam calls that a frivolous tax filing that leads to tax delinquency and becomes the firm action of a tax evasion. That's what police enforcers, police officers, are dispatched as tax collectors who collect fines, fees, and possible imprisonment habits for this violation. You have to control the entity and use a trust to reframe how you operate. Then file with the IRS under the new structure. Align, collect the receipts, become accountable, and recoup. Life the right way. And just don't be alive. Be in control of your existence.